Now, I'm going to turn now to the issue of Ukraine, which was the other matter that dealt with at today's National Security Committee meeting, and then I'll ask the Minister of Defence to cover both of those issues again, if you're happy to proceed on that basis. In Ukraine, we have seen a multi-access attack over the course of the last week or so, last few days. We believe there is no change in Russia's unlawful, violent and aggressive intent in Ukraine. Their attacks are behind schedule, but we should not assume any change in their intent or their purposes in Ukraine. The economic, diplomatic and defence response has been far stronger than anticipated, and particularly, I believe, by the Russian government. And it is having a very serious impact on their progress. I want to commend all of those countries around the world that have joined those responses. I particularly welcome the rather strong responses we've seen from countries like Singapore and Switzerland. I mean, this, I think, goes to the extent of the international response to these outrageous and aggressive attacks undertaken, invasion undertaken by the Russian government. And every day that resistance continues, every day that we impose a cost on the Russian government and all those who support them in their unlawful acts, makes it even harder for Russia to continue to pursue their objectives in Ukraine. But this is also likely to lead, I suspect, to an even more violent response from Russia. Anyone who thinks the Russian government is just going to sit there, I think, doesn't understand the intent and the outrageous objectives of President Putin. Our goal is to impose the most significant costs on Russia that we possibly can on the Russian government and all those who support them, as a clear warning to anyone else who would seek to engage in such unlawful acts of aggression and violence through an invasion of that nature. So today, to further increase the support we're providing to Ukraine and to the NATO and all the members of NATO, we will be answering the call from President Zelenskiy. President Zelenskiy said, "Don't give me a ride, give me ammunition." And that's exactly what the Australian government has agreed to do. We will be committing $50 million to support both lethal and non-lethal defensive support for Ukraine. The overwhelming majority of that, that's some 70 million Australian dollars, will be in the lethal category. We're talking missiles, we're talking ammunition, we're talking supporting them in their defence of their own homeland in Ukraine, and we'll be doing that in partnership with NATO. I'm not going to go into the specifics of that because I don't plan to give the Russian government a heads up about what's coming their way, but I can assure them it's coming your way. In addition to that, we will be acting to provide humanitarian support, an initial contribution of some $25 million. We're providing in humanitarian support, that's some $35 million Australian, to international organisations to support their efforts with shelter, food, medical care, water and education support. This will be our opening contribution. We expect that over time there will be further requests and we'll be addressing those as time goes on and the needs that are there are better understood. There are some 500,000 Ukrainians that have fled their homeland. There's 160,000 on our most recent reports that I have available of internally displaced people. We have already processed all of the outstanding applications for visas to Australia, and they've all been given visas of one shape, one form or another. In addition, we're receiving around 100 applications a day, which are being processed as the top priority. They're visa applications across the entire migration program. So they're for temporary visas on skills, they're for education visas, they're for family reunion visas, and they're getting the stamp. And they'll be able to come to Australia. And for some of those who are on temporary visas, their intention, it will be different. They will want to come to Australia for a period of time, and I have no doubt they will want to return to their home country. We are also preparing options to support the broader humanitarian effort to have programs like we had for the Kosovars some years ago. We should not make the mistake thinking that every person who is seeking to leave Ukraine does not want to return to their home country. I have no doubt hundreds of thousands, if not more, will want to return to their home country. That's where their family is, that's where their lives are. And we want to ensure that those things are not taken from them. And so where we are able to provide that temporary refuge, then we'll be seeking to do just that with many other countries around the world. But for those for whom that won't be an option, then we'll continue to provide support through our migration program, through the mainstream program, and in addition in the humanitarian area, which at this stage, the demand for that is not very clear. But we will address that in partnership with other agencies when we get to that point. And if that requires supplementing our existing program, just like with the Afghanistan program we're currently working on, then we will. We will meet that demand with our other partners, and Australia has a strong track record of doing all of those things. So with that, I appreciate that was a very lengthy set of issues I had to run you through, but it was a very lengthy meeting, and Australia will stand with Ukraine. Tonight I'll be standing with the New South Wales Premier as we light up the Opera House in Ukraine's colours. That is intended to send a very strong message of solidarity from one of the world's most iconic buildings, that Australia stands with Ukraine, just as we've lit our own parliament up here as part of the vivid events here in Canberra. All of these events send a very clear message, which I know is encouraging the people of Ukraine. They are showing a resilience which is absolutely extraordinary, and having met with so many in the Ukrainian community over the last few days, and I'll meet with more of them this afternoon and this evening in Sydney, we want to say we are with you. We are with you. Peter.